Hi everyone. Welcome to Life Story. Today, I'm excited to share a new story with you. Stephen Mitchell stood in the doorway of their new apartment, watching his 5-year-old son, Dylan, dart between stacked moving boxes like a pinball. The afternoon sun streamed through the bare windows, casting long shadows across the empty rooms that would soon become their home. "Daddy, look how big my room is." Dylan's excited voice echoed off the walls. "Can I put Mom's picture right here by my bed?" Stephen's heart clenched. 2 years after Ashley's death, Dylan still kept her memory alive with an intensity that sometimes took his breath away. The worn photograph of the three of them at the beach, Ashley's last good day, went everywhere Dylan did. "Sure, buddy. As soon as Grandma Marie gets here, we'll hang all our pictures." "Is she coming on the train? Can we go watch the trains after?" Dylan asked eagerly. Stephen smiled despite himself. "She is. And maybe we can if we get enough unpacking done first." He checked his phone. No messages from the base yet. This transfer had been a godsend. A chance to start fresh with a promotion and the promise of stability. No more deployments. No more leaving Dylan with his mother while he served in combat zones. After losing Ashley, Stephen couldn't bear the thought of his son losing another parent. Memories washed over him as he began unpacking the kitchen. Ashley's diagnosis just months after Dylan's 3rd birthday. The rapid decline that followed. And those final precious moments when she'd smiled at him one last time before slipping away. She had been so young, so full of life. Despite her harsh start in foster care. "Life's too short for regrets," she had always said. "Daddy." Dylan's small voice pulled Stephen back to the present. "Can we put the stars up in my room? The ones Mom liked?" "Of course we can. Champ, let's find that box." As they searched through their belongings, Stephen thought about how different Dylan was from other kids his age. More serious, more aware. Sometimes, he caught his son studying Ashley's photo with such concentration, as if trying to memorize every detail of her face. The sound of a car door made Dylan rush to the window. "Grandma's here, and she brought her famous cookies. I can smell them." Sure enough, Marie Mitchell's distinctive laugh floated up from the street below. Stephen watched his mother emerge from her car, arms loaded with bags. She had been their rock these past 2 years, helping them navigate life without Ashley while somehow knowing exactly when to step back and let them figure things out on their own. "Well," Marie announced as she swept through the door, "I see you boys have made a fine mess of things already. Good thing I'm here to sort you out." Dylan launched himself into her arms. "Grandma, did you bring the snickerdoodles?" "What kind of grandmother would I be if I didn't?" she said, hugging him close. Then she gave Stephen a knowing look over Dylan's head. "And I brought something else too, my organizational skills. This place needs a woman's touch." Marie's prediction proved true. Within hours, the apartment began transforming under her experienced guidance. She directed Stephen and Dylan like a seasoned general, turning chaos into order. "The photos go here," she declared, arranging frames on the mantel. "Ashley should be the first thing people see when they walk in." Stephen watched as his mother placed the largest photo, their wedding portrait, in the center. Ashley's smile seemed to light up the room just as it had in life. She had been so beautiful that day, practically glowing with joy, despite having no family of her own to attend. "Tell me about the wedding again, Grandma," Dylan requested, carefully holding a smaller frame. "The part where Mom's dress got caught in the door." Marie laughed. "Oh, that poor dress. Your mother was so worried about having everything perfect. And then she got stuck trying to leave the church. But you know what she did?" She laughed, just threw her head back and laughed like it was the funniest thing in the world. "That was Mom," Stephen said softly. "She could always find the bright side. Even at the end, when the cancer had ravaged her body, Ashley had maintained that spirit." He remembered their last real conversation, just days before she died. "Promise me something," she had whispered, her once vibrant voice barely audible. "Promise you won't let Dylan forget how to laugh. Don't let my death shadow his whole life." "I promise," he'd said, holding her fragile hand. "But you're going to get better. The doctors sh." She'd squeezed his fingers with what little strength she had left. "We both know that's not true. Just promise me you'll both keep living." really living, not just existing. Now, watching Dylan help Marie arrange kitchen supplies, Stephen wondered if he'd kept that promise. They were surviving. Yes, but were they really living? James Mitchell. Marie's voice cut through his thoughts. Stop brooding and come help me with these curtains. Ashley would have my head if I let you turn this place into a man cave. That made Dylan giggle. What's a man cave? Grandma? A sad place where men think beige is a decorating scheme and pizza boxes are wall art. She teased, winking at Stephen. Your father tried that in college. Lucky for him. Your mother had better taste. As they worked, Marie filled the apartment with stories about Ashley, not just the sad final days, but the happy times, the silly moments, and the little details that made her real to Dylan. She always had a gift for that, keeping Ashley's memory alive without letting grief overshadow their lives. By evening, the apartment had been transformed. Warm colors brightened the walls. Family photos created a timeline of love and loss. And Ashley's favorite throw blanket draped across the couch as if she had just left it there. Now, Marie announced, who's hungry? I saw a promising little Italian place down the street. Can we have pizza? Dylan asked hopefully. Actually, Stephen said, why don't we do something different? Something new. He remembered Ashley's words about really living. That Thai place we passed looked interesting. Dylan's eyes widened. With the funny noodles? Exactly. What do you say we try an adventure? Marie's approving smile told him he'd made the right choice. As they headed out into the evening, Stephen felt something he hadn't in a long time, a sense of possibility, of life moving forward instead of standing still. The morning of Dylan's first day at Little Sprouts Preschool dawned bright and clear. Stephen watched his son meticulously pack and repack his Spider-Man backpack, making sure Ashley's photo was safely tucked in the front pocket. Remember, buddy, Stephen said as they walked the 3 blocks to school. Mrs. Bennett is expecting you. Grandma Marie says she's known her for years. Dylan nodded solemnly. Do you think the other kids will like me? The question made Stephen's heart ache. Dylan had always been a little different from other children his age. More serious. More thoughtful. Ashley used to say he had an old soul. Of course they will. Just be yourself. Sarah Bennett met them at the classroom door, her warm smile immediately putting both father and son at ease. She was younger than Stephen had expected, with kind eyes and an air of quiet confidence. You must be Dylan, she said, kneeling to his level. I hear you're quite the helper at home. Dylan straightened proudly. I helped Grandma organize all the kitchen cupboards yesterday. She says I have a good eye for detail, just like my mom. Sarah's expression softened as she glanced at Stephen. They had discussed the situation over the phone. She knew about Ashley and the importance of handling mentions of his mother with care. Well, we could certainly use a good organizer in our art corner. Would you like to see it? As Dylan followed Sarah into the classroom, Stephen noticed how he unconsciously touched his backpack, where Ashley's photo rested. They had discussed whether bringing it was a good idea, but Marie had been firm. Let him carry her with him until he's ready to let go. He'll be fine, Sarah assured Stephen quietly. We'll take good care of him. I know. It's just. Stephen struggled to find the words. After Ashley died, it was just us. Then Mom moved in to help. And now you're trusting someone new with your most precious person, Sarah finished. It's natural to be nervous. But look, he's already making friends. Sure enough, Dylan was showing another boy how to properly sort the colored markers. The other child watched in fascination as Dylan explained his system. That's Mason, Sarah said. He could use a friend who knows how to organize things. Stephen smiled, remembering Ashley's methodical approach to everything, from grocery shopping to battle plans against cancer. He gets that from his mother. Good traits have a way of living on, Sarah observed. Now go on. He needs to see you trust this process. Stephen called out. Have a great day, buddy. I'll pick you up this afternoon. Dylan waved, already absorbed in his marker sorting mission. Stephen lingered a moment longer, watching his son navigate this new world. Ashley would be proud, he thought. Their boy was growing up. The day passed in a blur of military paperwork and orientation meetings. Stephen checked his phone, probably more times than necessary, but no calls came from the school. No emergencies. No tears. No problems. When he arrived for pickup, Dylan was on the playground with a small group of children, apparently teaching them a complex game involving chalk circles and elaborate hand movements. "He's a natural leader," Sarah commented, appearing beside Stephen, "and so gentle with the other children. You should be very proud." "I am," Stephen said softly. "We both are." But something in Sarah's demeanor, her genuine care, her understanding, gave Stephen a glimmer of hope he hadn't felt in a long time. As Dylan waved goodbye to his new friends and ran toward him, Stephen felt a renewed sense of confidence. They were going to be okay. Together, they were learning how to live again, to echo through Stephen's stunned mind, grounding him in the present. "Daddy, are you okay?" Dylan tugged on his sleeve, his small hand anchoring him to reality. Stephen blinked, his heart pounding. The woman who looked so much like Ashley was now standing, holding Katie's hand, and looking directly at him. Her eyes widened in recognition, a mixture of shock and hesitation crossing her face. It was as if she, too, had seen a ghost. "Mr. Mitchell?" Sarah's calm voice broke through the tension, and Stephen turned to see her watching him with concern. "This is Natalie Anderson, Katie's mother." Natalie approached cautiously, her eyes flickering between Stephen and Dylan. "You must be Dylan's father," she said softly. Her voice was different from Ashley's, but the resemblance in their appearance was uncanny. "I'm Natalie." Stephen managed a nod, struggling to process what he was seeing. "Yes, I'm Stephen. This is my son, Dylan." Natalie crouched down to Dylan's level, offering him a kind smile. "So, you're the boy Katie hasn't stopped talking about. She says you're the best marker organizer she's ever met." Dylan beamed, his earlier worry forgotten. "She's my best friend. We're going to build a rocket tomorrow." The ease with which the children interacted only deepened the surreal feeling in Stephen's chest. He glanced at Natalie again, searching for answers in her expression. Finally, he found his voice. "Natalie, this might sound strange, but have you ever heard of someone named Ashley Mitchell?" Natalie's face paled slightly, and she straightened, gripping Katie's hand tighter. "No, I haven't. Why do you ask?" Stephen hesitated. How could he explain the impossible resemblance, the connection between their children, without sounding unhinged? But before he could respond, Marie arrived, her sharp gaze taking in the scene immediately. "Stephen," she said firmly, stepping beside him and placing a steadying hand on his arm. "Introduce me, please." "This is Natalie Anderson," Stephen said, his voice steadier now. "Katie's mother. Natalie, this is my mother, Marie." Marie offered Natalie a warm smile, though her eyes were assessing. "It's nice to meet you. I couldn't help but notice how much you look like someone very dear to us." Natalie looked between them, her confusion evident. "I don't understand. What are you trying to say?" Taking a deep breath, Stephen decided to lay it all out. "My late wife, Ashley, grew up in foster care. She never knew her biological family. But you look exactly like her. And Katie," he glanced at the children, now sitting together on a bench, sharing a snack. "Katie looks just like Dylan." Natalie's face tightened with disbelief. I don't see how that's possible. I grew up with my parents. I don't have any siblings." Marie's eyes softened, her voice gentle. "Natalie, is it possible there's something in your past you don't know? Family secrets, perhaps?" Natalie's expression faltered, and she looked down, as though searching her memory. My parents died when I was young. I was raised by my aunt and uncle, but they never mentioned anything like this." Stephen and Marie exchanged a glance, the pieces starting to align in their minds. "Would you be willing to talk more about this?" Stephen asked carefully. "There might be a connection here we need to understand." Natalie hesitated, then nodded. "All right, let's talk." The group moved to a nearby coffee shop, the children happily tagging along, oblivious to the gravity of the conversation unfolding around them. As they sat down, Natalie shared what little she knew about her early life. She had vague memories of a hospital stay as a toddler, but no details beyond that. Her aunt and uncle had always been evasive about her parents. Marie leaned forward, her tone soft but firm. Natalie, I don't mean to overstep, but would you consider taking a DNA test? It could confirm whether there's a connection between you and Ashley. Natalie's eyes widened, and she glanced at Katie, who was now giggling with Dylan over some shared joke. Finally, she nodded. If it will give us answers. Yes. The following weeks were a whirlwind. Samples were sent to a lab, and the wait for results felt endless. During that time, Stephen and Natalie grew closer, bonding over the shared mystery and their children's blossoming friendship. Dylan and Katie were inseparable, their connection deepening with each passing day. Finally, the results arrived. The email confirmed what they had all suspected. Natalie and Ashley were twins, separated as infants due to circumstances no one fully understood. The revelation brought a mix of emotions, joy, grief, and a sense of connection that transcended the years and the loss. For Dylan and Katie, the discovery was simpler. They were siblings now, and that was all that mattered. For Stephen and Natalie, it was the start of a new chapter, one filled with healing, understanding, and the possibility of family growing in the most unexpected ways. As they stood together one evening, watching their children play, Natalie turned to Stephen with a soft smile. I think Ashley would be happy to see this. Stephen nodded, his heart full. She would. And I think she sent you to us when we needed you most. And tiny clothes. Little keepsakes I couldn't bear to part with. Maybe it will help explain things better. Her voice trembled with both regret and hope. Marie stood and placed a reassuring hand on Eleanor's shoulder. Let's start there, she said gently. Sometimes looking at the past helps us make sense of the present. The group moved upstairs, the air heavy with anticipation. Eleanor led them into a dimly lit attic, pulling open a worn trunk covered in dust. Inside were relics of a life divided. Identical baby blankets embroidered with tiny initials, a pair of matching stuffed animals, and several faded photographs. Natalie picked up a blanket, her fingers tracing the stitched name. Ashley. Stephen noticed a framed photo buried at the bottom of the trunk. It showed Eleanor as a young woman, holding two identical infants, her face a mix of exhaustion and love. You kept this, he said softly, holding it up for everyone to see. I couldn't let go of them completely, Eleanor admitted, tears streaking her face. Even when I was forced to make the hardest choice of my life, I couldn't forget. Natalie's hardened expression softened as she looked at the photo. For the first time, she saw the pain her mother had carried all these years. I don't know if I can forgive you, she said honestly, but I'm willing to try, for Ashley's sake, and for Katie and Dylan. Eleanor nodded, her shoulders sagging with relief. That's more than I deserve. Thank you. The drive back felt lighter, though the air was still tinged with emotion. Dylan and Katie, sensing the shift, resumed their animated chatter, oblivious to the weight of the revelations that had just unfolded. As they pulled into the preschool parking lot, Natalie turned to Stephen. I want us to figure this out, she said. For the kids. And for Ashley. We owe it to her. Stephen met her gaze, finding an unexpected sense of partnership there. I think Ashley would want that too. In the weeks that followed, the two families began to merge their lives in small but meaningful ways. Natalie and Katie visited often, their presence filling the apartment with laughter and new memories. Eleanor, eager to make amends, began sharing stories of her youth, giving Dylan and Katie glimpses into the heritage Ashley had never known. Dylan and Katie grew closer, their bond deepening as they shared their unique connection. One day, while playing in the park, Dylan turned to Katie and said, You know, Aunt Ashley picked us to be family. That's why we found each other. Katie nodded solemnly. She must have known we'd be the best team ever. For Stephen, the journey brought a mix of joy and grief. He often found himself looking at Natalie and seeing Ashley in her gestures, her smile, even her laughter. But rather than deepening his loss, it gave him a sense of peace. Through Natalie and Katie, a part of Ashley lived on. One evening, as the families gathered for dinner, Natalie raised her glass. To Ashley, she said, her voice steady. for bringing us together, even when she couldn't be here herself. To Ashley, everyone echoed, their voices filled with love and remembrance. After dinner, Stephen found himself sitting on the couch. Dylan snuggled against his side. "Daddy," Dylan said sleepily, "do you think Mom knows we found Aunt Natalie and Katie?" Stephen kissed the top of his son's head, his heart full. "I think she knows, buddy, and I think she's really happy." As the apartment quieted for the night, Stephen looked around at the faces of his new, extended family. The journey that had started with heartbreak was now filled with healing and hope. Ashley's wish had come true. They weren't just surviving anymore. They were truly living. And in the echoes of her laughter and the bonds they had formed, her love continued to guide them all. "I never imagined finding a family like this," Natalie said, her voice trembling with emotion as she looked at Stephen and then at Dylan and Katie, who were beaming beside them. "For so long, I didn't know what was missing in my life. But now I do. It's all of you. And Ashley, she's been a part of this too, guiding us to where we were meant to be." The ceremony was filled with laughter and tears, blending memories of the past with hopes for the future. As they exchanged rings, Dylan whispered something to Katie, who giggled before turning to the crowd and announcing, "Now we're really a family." Marie led the first toast at the small reception held in the backyard of their new home, a house they had all chosen together. "To Ashley," she said, her voice steady despite the tears glistening in her eyes, "for her love, her laughter, and for bringing us all together. She's not just in the photograph on that chair. She's here in every laugh, every hug, and every moment of joy." The gathered family and friends echoed the toast, lifting their glasses. Even Eleanor, standing quietly in the corner, managed a small, grateful smile. As the evening went on, the children entertained everyone with their antics. Dylan and Katie insisted on leading a wedding dance they had choreographed, complete with mismatched steps and dramatic twirls that had everyone in stitches. Natalie joined in, spinning Katie around, while Stephen lifted Dylan high in the air to cheers and applause. Later, as the stars twinkled overhead, Stephen found himself standing alone for a moment, gazing at the photograph of Ashley. "I hope we've made you proud," he murmured. "You'll always be with us." A soft voice broke his reverie. "She is proud," Natalie said, stepping beside him. "I feel it every day." She reached for his hand, intertwining their fingers. "And I think she's happy we found each other. She always wanted you and Dylan to have a family." Stephen nodded, his heart full. "We do now. A bigger one than I ever imagined." The months that followed were a whirlwind of blending lives and creating new traditions. Natalie moved in, and with her came Katie's vibrant energy, filling the house with even more life. Eleanor became a frequent visitor, gradually finding her place in the family she had almost lost. She often brought small tokens, old photographs, handwritten notes from her younger days, as an attempt to bridge the years of separation. Marie, ever the matriarch, orchestrated family dinners, ensuring everyone gathered around the table at least once a week. She insisted on maintaining some of Ashley's favorite recipes, though Natalie often added her own twists. "We're keeping her spirit alive," Natalie said one evening, as she and Marie debated the proper amount of basil for lasagna. "But it's okay to make it our own too." Dylan and Katie thrived. Their bond as strong as ever. They became inseparable at school, often working together on projects that left their teachers marveling at their synchronicity. "They're like two halves of the same whole," one teacher remarked at a parent-teacher meeting. Stephen and Natalie simply smiled, knowing that was truer than anyone could imagine. One afternoon, as the family gathered in the backyard for a picnic, Dylan approached Stephen with a thoughtful expression. "Daddy," he said, holding Katie's hand, "do you think Mom would be okay with everything?" Stephen knelt down, looking into his son's earnest eyes. "I think she'd be more than okay, buddy. She'd be happy. She'd love how close you and Katie are. And she'd be so proud of all of us for finding joy again." Katie chimed in, her voice confident. "And I think she's watching over us. That's why we found each other, because she wanted us to." Stephen smiled, pulling both children into a hug. "I think you're right." As the sun began to set, casting a golden glow over the backyard, Stephen looked around at his family. Natalie was laughing with Marie. Eleanor was sharing a story with the kids, and Dylan and Katie were giggling as they tried to sneak extra dessert. It was a scene filled with love, laughter, and hope, everything Ashley had wanted for them. Stephen felt a deep sense of peace wash over him. Life had taken unexpected turns, bringing heartache and loss, but it had also brought incredible gifts. In Natalie, he had found a partner who understood his pain and shared his joy. In Katie, he saw the continuation of Ashley's legacy. And in Dylan, he saw the future, a future filled with endless possibilities. As the first stars appeared in the sky, Stephen raised a glass to the heavens. To Ashley, he said quietly, his voice steady and full of gratitude. For everything. The journey had been long and difficult, but it had brought them to this moment, a moment of connection, healing, and love. And Stephen knew that Ashley's wish had come true. They were not just surviving, they were truly living. A moment. The world seemed perfectly still, as if even time itself had paused to honor the beauty of this new beginning. Natalie rested her head against Stephen's chest, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "You know," she murmured, "I always believed in fate, but I never thought it would bring me here. To you, to Dylan, to this." Stephen held her tighter, his voice steady but filled with emotion. Ashley always believed that love had a way of finding us, even in the darkest times. She used to say that no matter how far apart we might feel, we're all connected in ways we don't always understand. I think she knew this was where we were all meant to end up. As they stood under the vast canopy of stars, the sounds of crickets and a gentle breeze surrounded them, creating a serene backdrop for their thoughts. In the house, the faint sound of Dylan and Katie's synchronized breathing carried a sense of peace, as if their connection had woven a thread of calm through the entire home. Natalie looked up at the sky, her voice soft but resolute. "I spent so many years wondering who I was, feeling like I was missing something. And now, I see that everything led me here, to the family I never knew I needed." Stephen kissed her forehead, his own heart swelling with gratitude. "You've brought so much back into our lives, Natalie. For me, for Dylan, for all of us. Ashley may not be here in person, but I know she's a part of this. She's the reason we found each other, the reason we're finally whole." A gentle breeze ruffled the leaves above them, as if offering silent agreement. In the distance, the faint glow of the children's carefully crafted family tree still shone under the garden lights, a visual testament to the connections they had discovered and nurtured. Later, as they turned to head back inside, Stephen paused, looking once more at the stars. "Ashley," he whispered, "thank you for everything, for bringing us here." Natalie placed her hand on his, and together, they walked into the warm glow of their home, where laughter, love, and the future awaited them. And somewhere, perhaps just beyond the stars, Ashley smiled, her heart at peace, knowing her family was exactly where they were meant to be.